The much awaited Tata Curvv is set to hit the Indian market, and we've come to the UK to the Tata Motors Design Tech Center to take a closer look at the vehicle, especially its design journey. And who better than Martin Uhlarik, Head of Design at Tata Motors, to talk about this journey. We've gone through it, very interesting journey, of course. But tell me, when you're entering a new segment or entering a new body style in a segment, what are your considerations of how far you can go and how polarizing or non-polarizing you can become with a design like this?
It's no compromise design, in the sense like it is quintessentially an SUV coupe. So it has to be a coupe. It can't be a bit of a coupe. It's either a coupe or it isn't. But at the same time, it's no compromise to the usability.
Right.
So as you saw with our design presentation, function, understanding, that's part of our DNA. So for instance, the rear headroom,
Yeah.
ingress, egress, no compromise.
Okay.
We said this is the hard point, this is how high the roof has to be. So how do you achieve the function, but at the same time make sure that it's still sporty? So we moved the wheelbase, we moved the overhangs, we made recommendations. There was a lot of push and pull to get it right, to make sure that, in side view, you got that impression, what you see now on the camera, that this is a proper coupe.
Right, but purely if you look at the way it looks, the design from the exterior, do you work with any limitations that you can't cross a certain point to make it more appealing to a larger section of buyers? Would you want to do more and you're not able to do it?
Yeah, in the end, this is a new product, a white space product, but at the same time, it's a design that still has to appeal. It's
Right.
still a business.
Yes.
It has to appeal to a certain mainstream. So it's finding that sweet spot between, making that wow factor, getting people to see it and they think like, wow, what is that? That's really cool. That's very dynamic. But at the same time, they can understand it and it can actually still be usable. It's a usable product and people have to understand what it is.
Right, and as a designer now, of course, you have to design two different cars,
Yes.
ICE and EV. Personally and generally, would you want them to look similar to each other, or would you want them to be as distinct from each other as possible?
At the moment, the Curvv is fundamentally, one product which has an ICE and EV offering. There is differentiation. Most of it is focused on the front end. Obviously,
Right.
we offer a different wheel design. We offer some color difference and some interior trim, so forth. But ultimately, at the moment, it's just a very subtle nuance, differentiation. If it had a different nameplate, then of course I would propose, that it becomes even more distinctive. But at the moment, it's a model.
Right, of course, we've seen ICE and EV models of the same car before also, but this is probably the first time we're going to see them together.
Yes.
At the launch. That hasn't happened before. So in that sense, that differentiation factor, does it become even more important to you to market it to the consumer?
I think so. I think the people who are buying the EV version are buying, they're very much like converts to electrification. They want to communicate that they have an electric vehicle. There's certain signatures, not only like the front end bumper, but the LED, it has the light guide, which goes end to end.
Yes.
The wheels are very aerodynamic. And like I said, even the interior, some of the color offering. With the ICE car, it's a more traditional. You see it here with these wheels, which are much more like, I would say, a traditional sporty wheel. So I think both appeal, to the customer who's buying whichever powertrain they decide.
Right, and talking specifically about EVs, they all sort of are part of a family, right? You start from the smallest EV to the biggest
That's
EV.
right.
Consciously, you want them to remind one car of the other car, make them look a part of the family.
There is a family feeling, but I definitely want them to be as individual as possible.
Okay.
The reality is that the Curvv was designed alongside most of the cars now in the portfolio, whether it's, Punch.EV, Nexon.EV. So there is a lot of familiarity. It was, designed pretty much within a certain time frame. At the same time, we are like consciously trying to distinguish not only ICE and EV, but each model. It's like a family picture. You
Right.
see them, you can see that they're related, but ultimately they're all individuals, with the same last name.
Right. If I ask you, designing a coupe SUV in this segment versus designing maybe a luxury coupe SUV,
yes.
is it a bigger challenge doing it in a space like this at this cost?
It is a little bit more just because it's a more compact footprint. If you were doing a larger SUV coupe, probably a little bit easier because you have a little bit more space to flex. But ultimately, I think when I look at the car, I think, it's like I said earlier, it's an uncompromised coupe. I don't think we've sacrificed anything in terms of the dynamics, even though, and the decision to go into this segment, this 4.3 meter segment, was a conscious decision because we felt this is actually the area where we're going to get the biggest potential volume and actually make the impact. 4.3 is right now the sweet spot in the market.
Right. It's a good selling segment. But tell me that when you look at traditionally the Indian market, you look at hatchbacks, you look at sedans, and you look at SUVs, right?
Yes.
Essentially, this is what it has been. Now something new that's coming in. Do you think the market is ready for it? And we've seen that Tata has in the past also experimented, including getting station wagons and that design to the market. It's been some time. But do you think India can now look at newer body styles, including a coupe, including maybe a station wagon or something else also?
I think, we look at every typology, every sort of silhouette, when we do reviews. There's a lot of designs that are in the studios, which are sort of, the unfinished projects, the ones that we reviewed, not just in design, but with management. And we felt actually this is not the right one. SUV is now the mainstream. That is the automotive market. You've seen the decline slowly of sedans. You've seen even hatchback. Overall, and that's a global trend. So now you see SUVs actually branching out and fragmenting into other sections. And the coupe is definitely a global trend, and it's a trend that India is ready for. I think the Curvv will be definitely the product that will not only be the first one into the market, but will actually be the one that creates the segment in the market.
Right. And just before we end, I want to briefly touch upon the personas. It's something new that you tried in your cars.
Yes.
How has it been received by the consumer? Has it worked for you?
I think the consumers it's resonated well with the consumers. It's something that they can relate to.
Okay.
The persona is supposed to be a reflection of the customer in terms of what their values are, who they want to express themselves, whether they're a pure customer, an accomplished customer, an empowered customer. Of course, there is a price positioning to that behind it. It's a branding exercise to, I would say, a trim level. But at the same time, it's more than just an anonymous, nomenclature. It's something that people can say, like, look, this is a reflection of who I am. As long as we can offer them, the most variety in terms of selection, I think that it's a success. And it's not a fixed strategy in the sense it's an evolving strategy. It's our way we communicate with the customer. But at the same time, if a persona, for instance, some persona doesn't sell, we'll drop it. Maybe we'll develop a new one. If we see, it's just like the population is evolving. Demographics are evolving, segments are evolving. This is a moving object that we constantly have to track and monitor and react to. And like I said, it's a conversation that we're having with our customers.
Right, lovely to hear that. Thank you for these wonderful insights and wish you all the best for the Curvv.
Well, thank you, and thank you for coming and visiting us.
Our pleasure. Thank you.